What's happening, fam? It's Coach Rye from TeamFFLEX. I'm right here on First Callouts every Wednesday coming to you. Today, we're talking about wellness, and we're also talking about, in another awesome way, current bikini compared to wellness. So I did a video just like this a few months back with some figure and bikini both, but I was using information at the time with what we had, okay? And we didn't have a ton of pictures of what wellness would look like and things like that at the time. Now we do, so this is a way more in-depth, way more awesome video talking about the comparisons for bikini and wellness. I know a lot of you women out there are trying to decide which you want to do, or people in general that are competing in it or not just want to know what the difference is. So this video today, very in-depth, going to break it down for you. That's what we do on First Callouts, the show that's dedicated towards teaching you how to get that first call out, where we're talking about everything regarding contest prep and hitting the stage. Today, it's wellness versus current today's bikini, comparisons, differences, everything you want to know. I'm Ryan Milton. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel, and please share this video. This is going to be a huge one that you really are going to want to watch probably a couple times over if you're thinking about doing either one of these categories, especially if you're leaning towards wellness, all right? So, with that being said, let's get it going. All right, so right out the gate, we got our first wellness front pose, basically. This is an official photo from NPC News Online of what the front pose is going to look like, okay? And so look right away at what we're seeing here in the dramatic differences. I'm going to show you a bikini front pose in just a minute, but okay, let's look at the upper body. So pretty well developed here. Rolling into the arms, the shoulders, they're pretty developed as well. Pretty at par with what current today's bikini is. But, you know, overall, it's a little bit more muscular, just a slight bit there. Now, the abs, a little bit more boxy in the midsection here, okay? A little bit more boxy, but still similar to what bikini is. Here's where the big difference is. The mega difference is in these legs, okay? So look at this woman's legs here for the wellness front pose, and these quads are so developed, so dramatically developed compared to what we're seeing in bikini. It's actually insane, okay? So these quads, we can see, you know, some slight separations here. We can actually see some different shapes, but not a ton of cuts or anything like that. Now, look at here, we got Ifbb, the Miss Bikini Olympia. She won this year, and now we're already seeing some dramatic differences in the shape, okay? So much more hourglass here. You can see as her waist draws in. Shoulders are well developed, very similar to what we saw in the wellness physique. And then we're rolling into the legs, and it's not nearly as developed, right? Okay, so we're seeing hourglass where the shoulders match the glutes and the waist comes in tight, okay? So the waist is much smaller in bikini. It's the hourglass type figure. You can see it clearly here. We got well-developed shoulders. They absolutely have to be rounded in either one of these divisions developed, coming into the hourglass waist. So here, much tighter waist, not as boxy as in wellness. Glutes are pretty developed here. Quads are not nearly as developed compared to what we were just looking at in that wellness, okay? And so I'm about to show you now the comparison of these two poses here, kind of coming in side by side in just a minute. But some notable things that you want to make sure you notice here is really look at how the waist comes in this wellness types physique, okay? So the waist in wellness is not as narrow as it is in bikini, okay? We just looked at Ifbb and her kind of physique, you know, the new bikini standard in a way. I'm also going to show you some of the other top Olympians for bikini here. But basically, look at this physique right here. This woman's physique is a much more boxy, okay? Heavily muscled in the lower body, and that's the number one thing we've been seeing in wellness overall. What they've said is going to be different. What I've been talking about for months and months now with all these shows on this channel is going to be different is the amount of lower body development, okay? Obviously, the pose are very different. We're not talking about posing in these videos. We're just doing comparisons of basically physique to physique, muscularity to conditioning, you know? And so conditioning-wise, these are very similar as far as physiques go, right? We're looking at conditioning being a very similar thing. Those quads, though, those are the big ticket item here, the thing that makes all the difference. So this is Janet. She took second at Olympia right now, and now we're looking here to compare again. You can already notice right away, compared to the last physique we were looking at, much more narrow in the waist, right? So she has that hourglass shape. Totally different posing, obviously. We already talked about that. Quads are not nearly as developed. Upper body development, though, is on par with what we're seeing in wellness. So right out the gate, two things you can notice in this front pose with these physiques in general. conditioning's looking pretty on par. Okay, conditioning's gonna be very similar from both back and forth, wellness and bikini. They're pretty similar conditioning. We already know this based on the official rules, what we want to see, what they judges, in other words, want to see in 2020. It's going to be conditioning. It's on par with basically what today's bikini is. The dramatic difference, obviously, is going to be the quads. And so I'm going to show you side by side right now in just a sec here where you're going to be able to see these two poses together, okay? So here's a wellness front pose on the left side of the screen and a bikini front pose on the right side, okay? So right out the gate, look at the dramatic difference, okay? So wellness, you can see it's a much more rectangular type physique almost, okay? So it's a boxier where the shoulders come out, their waist is not as tapered, and the legs really come in hard and big, okay? So they're big, they're in your face, they're showing you basically this more rectangular type physique in wellness. These again are the official photos from NPC News Online. If we look over at Issa here on the side, Miss Bikini Olympia, way more hourglass, right? You can see how the shoulders come and taper into the waist, and then they roll back out into her glutes and her legs. Nowhere near the development in the quads as bikini as wellness though, right? Nowhere near the development in bikini as it is in wellness, and so that's the big difference. Comparably, we're looking at the physiques being pretty similar upper body, similar conditioning, dramatic difference in the lower body, and that's what we've been talking about if you've been following my stuff. All right, let's look at this quarter turn now. So this is the wellness quarter turn. Quarter turns are going to be done in wellness. It's different than what you do in bikini. So for this comparison, I'm going to show you just a bikini transition, a similar type side pose. It's just a transition for bikini. It's not an actual judged pose as it is in actual wellness where it's a quarter turn, okay? Wellness, you do a quarter turn to the right. Bikini, you do not. But again, we're going to see it right here. We looked at these two. We just looked at that quarter turn for wellness compared to Issa here again, and it looks a lot different. Oh, we're seeing the same thing. So people have been saying, right? People have been saying, you could compete in both of these. A lot of girls online I know think they're going to do wellness and bikini, and they're going to bounce back and forth between show. It would be very, very hard to do. Just look at the dramatic differences in the physiques right here, and this is at the top-notch level. So if you think that you could do this at the amateur level, you're not going to be able to, okay? We're seeing really, really developed quads. Look at this woman right here. Quads are insanely developed, really big, right? And then her glutes are much more developed than we're seeing in bikini, period. And so that's basically what we're looking at. The posing here is off. Keep that in mind. They don't want to see this kind of teapot arm stuff in wellness, but basically, we're looking at the physiques here. And so with that, we're seeing more of a rectangular type style physique, not as narrow in the waist for wellness, and, not as much development. Because again, look right here, we're looking at Janet here. This pose for her transition, it's not the same pose, obviously, because the poses are different, but we're still not seeing that crazy leg development. We're not seeing that super crazy glute development. We're seeing a well-proportioned physique in bikini, and that's really what bikini has always been about. It's always been about that shape, the hourglass shape, and that's been really hammered home this past year at Olympia, was they were looking at bikini for the hourglass, okay? And so here's another example of the quarter turn for wellness, coupled up with Angelica here in her side transition pose, and basically we're just seeing the same thing. You can clearly tell the wellness physique has way more developed type quads than in bikini. And so with that, you got to understand, ladies, if you're going to compete in these divisions, you got to know what the difference is. You got to know what the judges are going to want to see. You have to actually change your training if you're a bikini competitor and you want to roll into wellness, believe it or not, okay? So if you want help with that, go to TeamFFLEX.com right now and subscribe to the trial. I'll show you how to train for wellness, and I'm not charging you for it. It's a free trial. I'll show you how to do it because it is very different. And if you've never competed before and you want to go into wellness, well, you definitely need to have a good program to get these types of physiques, okay? So looking at wellness compared to bikini here so far, what we've seen is very similar conditioning, similar upper body development, and differences in the waist as far as, the taper and the tightness, and then more developed in the legs. And we're going to see that right here again in the back pose. So we're looking at the wellness back pose now, and right out the gate, what is the number one thing you're going to see it's different? Guess what it is? It's the lower body development. Again, an insanely developed lower body. From the perspective of now we're in the back pose, we're seeing the glutes being dramatically developed compared to bikini, and the quads. The quad sweep from the back is intense here. You can see this woman's hamstrings and stuff like that. We're seeing a strong glute ham thigh separation, okay? So that's not something that's scored in bikini, and we'll talk about the bikini back pose in just a second, but it is something that comes when you have a lot of glute development. So a lot of women don't know that. They think it has to do with getting lean and certain stuff. It does. It has to do with being built enough and lean enough. And so in wellness, we're going to probably see a lot more glute ham tie than we have in bikini because of the fact that the glutes seem to be so much more developed than bikini. Right here, you can see the roundness of the glutes is dramatically emphasized, and rolling in the quads, that sweep is massive. And here is Isa again, and so she's Miss Bikini Olympia. Right at the gate, you can tell the difference, right? You can tell the difference from that first wellness physique we just looked at to now Isa here. Clearly still developed in the upper body, still has clear glute and leg development, but it's not to that degree of wellness at all. It is a lot different, okay? Her glutes overall look much softer than in wellness. They're not as hard. Her ham tie here, it's almost barely visible, okay? It's not nearly as visible as it was in the wellness physique we were just looking at, and that has to do a lot with the fact that, the glutes are going to be way more developed, the hamstrings are going to be way more developed, and the quads are going to be way more developed in wellness, and that gives you a harder, leaner type look in the lower body because you're carrying more muscle there, basically. That's why we're seeing that glute ham tie, and that's why we're seeing less of it here. She's on point with her conditioning for bikini, no doubt. That's why she is Miss Bikini Olympia, but with wellness, it's not going to be the same thing, okay? And so here's another wellness back pose right at the gate. Again, we are seeing what I told you we would see. Upper body's matching, midsection's about the same, and then we're looking at here the change in the lower body, the glutes, that glute roundness coming into that cut, in that glute ham tie is a lot more emphasized here. Again, you can see it much, much more. This is a different level athlete probably, but you can still tell that the glutes are popping out. They got the glute ham tie, the separation going on. And then here is Janet from Bikini. She's number 2 at Olympia. Again, she's got some glute ham tie going, but it's much softer, okay? The glutes are not nearly as round, and overall the physique is just not as developed. Her legs are much more narrow and less muscular in comparison to the wellness physiques. You almost can't tell the difference in legs between the wellness physiques because they're so close together due to the muscularity over there. And here, there's a clear emphasis that her legs are much more narrow, in other words. And so here is a side-by-side I gave you guys. This is a wellness back pose on the left, bikini back pose on the right, and here again the screaming comparisons, you can tell the difference, okay? The wellness upper body almost looks like it's actually smaller, even though it's pretty much on par with development here with the bikini back pose. It looks almost smaller because the glutes are so dramatically more developed and the legs in general are so much more developed. And so this is a really good comparison here where we can see not nearly as much roundness in bikini for the glutes, not nearly as much development in the glutes, the hamstrings, or the quads. Overall, the lower body development on the wellness physique you're seeing on the left is so much more. It's just way more ingrained, okay? And this is what I've been hammering home for weeks and weeks building these. It's not going to be comparable. It's not going to be something you could bounce back and forth. A lot of girls think you could do that, and a lot of girls I've also been seeing say that basically, you could, if you didn't do good in bikini because you couldn't get lean enough, now you could do wellness and do better because it's basically a fat version of bikini. And in reality, that's such a joke because it is honestly probably going to be harder to compete in wellness than it is in bikini due to the muscular development you're going to need to have while still maintaining a similar level of conditioning, okay? And so this is the final quarter turn now for a wellness type physique where, again, we're seeing that rectangular type body really come into play. This woman is not as conditioned, but you can still tell the massive development in the quads here. There is no doubt that this woman has been training legs. And then here is Isa's final kind of front pose in bikini. This is an optional type pose. A lot of girls will do the same type front pose. Isa does a little bit different. But again, remember, we're looking at physiques, not poses. Here we see again hourglass screaming from that shoulder taper down to the waist, back into the glutes and the legs. And that is the significant difference between wellness and bikini, honestly, is this kind of hourglass shape in bikini versus more of a rectangular type squared out shape in wellness. And now we might see this change a lot when the actual division starts in a few months. But for now, this is what we're going off. This is what we have to work with. These official photos from NPC News Online. Both sets of these, and we can clearly see in the side-by-side comparison just the outstanding difference between these physiques. And so the reason I want to make this video for the most part is like, these are not similar. A lot of people think they're just going to be the same thing or a fatter version of bikini, you know, for wellness, and it'll be easier. It's not. It's going to be very challenging to compete in this division, just like all the other ones. It's going to take work. It's going to take training. It's going to take nutrition. It's going to take everything you need to do. You're not going to be able to walk into this division, in other words, and be competitive. You're going to have to actually do an improvement season, off season, and get the right muscles and then prep and bring it to the stage. And it's not going to be something where you can bounce back and forth between bikini, between figure and wellness, between any of these divisions, because you will have to train specifically for each one if you expect to do good in either one, okay? And so here's an actual wellness call out. And what we're looking at right out the gate is what we're probably going to be seeing coming up in just a few months. So wellness is about to kick off. If you don't know, the first wellness show is going to be at the Fit Expo Muscle Contest. Actually, the production company that has these photos right here, this is the Muscle Contest International show. And so with that, this is what the callouts will generally kind of look like, right? So we can see the abs are not crazy developed. The quads are pretty well developed. And then here is a call out from bikini, and this is at Olympia. Again, just a totally different perspective on the physiques. Hourglass shape is screaming in that top four right there. You know, you can clearly tell the taper is everything. The hourglass is everything in bikini, and he had the best of it last in the Olympia in September, and that's why she's Miss Bikini Olympia right now. And so with that, you can look at this top four and you can clearly see the difference. Here's a comparison of the two. All right, so we see down on the bottom, again, this more square-type rectangular physique that I keep just saying. You know, it's more of a square-type physique compared to the top, where that's our bikini call-out at Olympia. A lot more narrow in the waist, a lot more of that hourglass shape. And the quads are just going to be something that are going to be massive, important things to have in wellness. And let me tell you straight up, if you develop the legs that you need for wellness, you cannot jump to bikini and do well, because you will be way overdeveloped. You will get scored down. And that's really what I want to make this video for, is to hammer it home. These divisions are going to be dramatically different, okay? When we're actually going on stage, when they're running next year, they're going to be a lot different than what you assume they might be, what you think they could be. They're gonna totally exemplify a whole different variation of what the sport is actually bringing. And so with that, you have to understand that you can't bounce back and forth. You can't really just do either one. You're going to have to train very hard to do one. And if you're not training on a specific program right now to get a wellness physique, it's going to be very hard to get one. A lot of bikini girls I know think they can just do their bikini program and they're going to be able to attain this. It's a whole different look. It won't work. You need a whole different program. And again, like I said, if you're serious about training wellness, go to TeamFFLEX.com right now. I got a free trial. I'll show you how to do it. I'll show you what I have all the people I'm coaching for wellness doing right now. In a general sense, I'll show you some stuff that'd be good for you and your physique, because that is the difference you will also notice in every single one of these women. Here again, another comparison, bikini on top, wellness on bottom. Every physique looks different, right? Every physique can carry muscle differently. He's going to have a different type of a look in the taper of the waist and a different type of look on the shoulders. But overall, the things that they want to see in each division is going to clearly stand out, especially once it's actually started, it's actually active in just a couple months. And then we're going to really see how this sport can shape out and, you know, the real differences that are going to be there. But a big problem is people have just been saying all this crazy stuff about wellness, and it's really just because they have no idea what the sport is actually going to be. Fortunately for me, I sponsor a lot of the Spectrum Fitness production shows, a lot of other shows where Sandy Williamson is, who is the head NPC Ifbb judge. Okay, so she judges Olympia. She's going to be judging wellness. She's at the nationals doing the pro cards, doing all that. And I've been able to get the information from her, you know, that this is what they're looking for. Obviously, NPC News Online is posting these photos as the example of what wellness should be. And so I think it's important that everybody, all you ladies watching this, any of you coaches watching this, you understand these are different physiques. There's nothing comparable here to realistically the lower body, the glute development, the quads, the hamstrings. it's going to be a lot different, okay? It's going to be a lot different. And you can clearly see right here in this photo, this comparison of bikini on top, wellness on bottom, just how different these things really are. And, you know, with that, you got to train the right way for each one. You got to train for each one, and I would strongly suggest that you move in the direction of doing just one of these, okay? Don't think that you can do both. Don't try to do both. If you try to do both divisions, bikini and wellness, you're going to be very bad at both of them. You're going to get last call-outs in both. You're not going to win your shows, get first call-outs, to do anything else, because in reality, it's a whole different look, okay? The posing's obviously different, but it's not about the posing. It's about the physique. And if the physique has to be different, it's not going to work to go back and forth. It's not going to work to think that, okay, you didn't get lean enough for bikini, well, jump over to wellness because it's not as lean. Clearly, you can see the conditioning's on point. So to recap, basically, what's the difference between wellness and bikini? What makes them similar? Similarities right at the gate. What we're going to see next year, what we know is going to be true, what the judges are going to want to see, is upper body being pretty much on point with current today's bikini. You're looking at this photo now. You can see it is pretty much the same development. You know, and this is top Olympians. You know, with this, we're seeing the same type of development. You're going to see the shoulders, roundness is all needs to be there. That development needs to be there. That's the structure that gives the foundation of these women's divisions, is the muscle. You got to have the muscle, okay? Now, we see the difference where the midsections come into play. We see the difference that the fact that bikini has a much more narrow type waist. They have a much more narrow midsection, much more narrow abdominals. The girls that are currently doing wellness, that have been doing wellness, this could change when we see it on stage, have generally a more rectangular, squared out waist, and this is because of the muscularity they have on their frame. Overall, it's just more, and that gives you a little bit of that thicker look, a little bit more of that muscle look, especially from the lower body, okay? Conditioning-wise, though, very on par. Very much similar conditioning. This is what's been stated in official rules. It looks pretty much the same as far as conditioning goes. You're not going to need to be leaner in wellness, in other words, and you don't need to, you know, try to add body fat either. You just need to be on par with current bikini conditioning, and if you got a coach, somebody that can work that for you, it'd be very easy to get that going. Now, where the big difference is in the lower body, and this is something I've been hammering home for a while, and I'm doing it 18 times in this video because a lot of people got to understand, if you want to do wellness, you need way more developed glutes. You need a lot more developed glutes. You need more developed glutes than you think that you need if you plan to do wellness, okay? And your quads, the same thing. What they're looking for in wellness is more development in the lower body, the legs and the glutes and the hamstrings than in bikini, okay? And one of the big reasons that this division came out in the first place is because a lot of women in general carry more muscle on their lower body. There are some women out there that may want to compete in bikini and literally cannot because they just have so much muscle on their lower frame naturally, okay? And so wellness is a great division for that. There's also a lot of women out there that when they diet down on a prep for bikini, they might do good in bikini, but they don't actually enjoy the way that they look. They feel like they're too small, or they wish they had more muscle, or whatever. And now you have wellness where you can do that. You know, some bikini girls prefer their off-season look to their stage look as far as muscularity goes and things like that. Well, now with wellness, you can do that. Do you need a totally different approach to your training and your nutrition? Absolutely. Do you need a totally different program? Absolutely. If you look at some of the stuff that some of the wellness women have been doing, some of the girls that I'm coaching for wellness, if I showed you their workouts, you'd be blown away in the difference. And I've been coaching bikini for years, just started coaching wellness in the past 6-7 months. And with that, we're looking at how, you know, it's basically this whole new division. I'm not doing any of the stuff that I do for bikini for wellness girls, because basically it's a whole different physique, it's a whole different look, and I know that if they're going to come out and they're going to do their best and they're going to perform at their capacity and place at these shows and do well, and eventually roll into 2021 when the first Wellness Olympia will happen, you got to be ready for it. You got to know that it's a different look. You got to know it's a different physique, and there's only one way to get it, and that's to train for it. You have to know the look. You have to reverse engineer it and then make it happen. And so I did a video just the other day with some wellness lower body exercises. You can check that out. I've done tons of other stuff about wellness. This is a great comparison, I feel, to really show you the differences between bikini and wellness and why you got to understand they're different. And I hope that I said that enough in this video that you finally get it. Thank you for watching First Callouts. This is my show I do every single single Wednesday. I'm dedicated towards bringing you the information you need to know to get you that first call out. No matter what division you are doing, please share it, please subscribe it, and I'll be back here tomorrow with Fitness Fire. I've got 5 shows running every single week for you. Thank you for watching. Coach Rye is out.